In the stuffy and oppressive cave, the level 70 bear warrior stood firm like a mountain of flesh and iron, its fiery red eyes sparked with malice, fixed on the small figures facing it. Hyrkan and his skeleton army stood there, dwarfed by the monster's colossal shadow. Despite the size difference, Hyrkan remained unusually calm. He softly spoke as if reassuring himself, "I'm going now." As he finished speaking, he quickly pressed a glowing blue button on his bracelet, a soft click sounding. Immediately, the system responded, "Slot on." As if provoked by the action, the bear warrior threw its head back and let out an earth-shattering roar, making the entire cave tremble. But instead of fear, a dazzling blue stream of energy burst from Hyrkan's body, swirling like a whirlwind. The familiar Hahoe Mask appeared, and his attire transformed into a spiky, dark armor. Immersed in the aura of power, a confident and somewhat arrogant smile formed on Hyrkan's lips behind the mask. He looked up at the intimidating monster, his voice ringing out with determination. "This time, I will claim everything myself."
The savage roar of the bear warrior shook the entire space, its glowing red eyes burning with fury. Standing in the shadows, Hyrkan observed silently. Memories of the past flooded back. He recalled that before his regression, when he and his guild members raided this monster, they had failed 6 times before barely managing to defeat it. This time, he couldn't afford to make any mistakes, for if he failed again, someone else might seize the leading position in the main quest. His eyes sharply analyzed the enemy's weaknesses. Hyrkan muttered, "To land an effective blow on the bear warrior, I need to aim for the gaps in its armor and peel off each piece of equipment. I can do this. I've prepared new skills just for this." Instantly, the massive monster charged forward, its roar tearing through the air. Standing amidst his skeleton army, a confident, slightly sinister smile formed on Hyrkan's lips as he commanded, "When I give the signal, follow me, skeletons."
A brilliant blue aura erupted, enveloping Hyrkan's body. He smugly explained, "This is my newly learned passive skill, muscle transformation." Energy surged beneath his feet and the ground cracked. With a haughty smile behind his mask, Hyrkan tensed, channeling power into his jump. He roared excitedly, "Let's go!" But instead of lunging directly at the enemy, an uncontrollable force hurled Hyrkan soaring across the battlefield. The confidence on his face immediately turned to bewilderment. "Huh?" He shot past the heads of the skeletal warriors and the giant bear monster, who stared up in confusion. A sense of panic engulfed Hyrkan as he found himself unable to control his speed or direction. He yelled in desperation, "What the hell is this? Wait, stop!" Below, the loyal skeletons continued to advance steadily towards the monster. The giant bear, after a moment of confusion, bared its fangs, its eyes glowing with a fierce red light. It let out an earth-shattering roar and swung its colossal weapon. A deadly red streak swept through the air. Crack! The skeletal warriors shattered into pieces under the bones scattering everywhere. A cold notification appeared. Skeletal warrior has been destroyed due to taking too much damage. From afar, Hyrkan's furious and helpless shout echoed across the desolate wasteland. "Damn it!"
A system notification for the muscle reconstruction skill appeared, explaining that it enhanced leg strength, allowing for faster and more powerful movement. However, the surging energy emanating from Hyrkan's legs seemed uncontrollable. He growled in frustration. "It's fast and strong, all right, but this is too much. This crazy game. Damn it, if that's the case, I'll use acceleration to attack." The ground beneath him cracked under immense pressure. Leaping from a rock outcrop, Hyrkan shot forth like a black arrow, enveloped in a surge of blue energy, aiming straight for the colossal bear monster below. However, instead of a fatal blow, Hyrkan found himself sinking deep into the bear's thick fur and fat. The bear merely tilted its head, sweat trickling down its face with extreme confusion, utterly bewildered by what had just happened. Hyrkan let out a dry chuckle, his face buried in the soft back. He groaned in despair. "Huh, so soft and squishy. This damned skill." The request was cancelled due to the configured HTTP client.timeout of 30 seconds elapsing.
The space violently shook as Hyrkan's attack directly struck the monster, creating a dazzling red energy explosion. Realizing normal attacks couldn't penetrate the opponent's defense, a resolute glint appeared in Hyrkan's eyes. "If that's the case then," he muttered, his body shooting through the air. A dark purple energy sphere condensed in his palm as he loudly declared, "Bone Bomb!" Instantly, into the roaring mouth of the beast, a spectral skull shrouded in vibrant purple flames was thrown. A terrifying explosion echoed from within the massive bear's body itself. Purple magical energy erupted fiercely, tearing apart the surrounding ground. Hyrkan lowered his center of gravity, firm against the strong aftershock. Yet, as the purple smoke dissipated, the monster still stood tall. It roared in fury, completely unharmed by the internal explosion. The force of the roar threw Hyrkan backward. He gritted his teeth, struggling to stand firm against the pressure. "Ugh, what a tough bastard," he growled, his frustration evident. "All right, I give up on direct damage." Instead of launching another attack, a gentle blue energy emanated from Hyrkan, channeling to his bone warriors. Under the influence of mana, the shattered skeletons began to regenerate. Broken bone fragments swiftly mended, and the soul flames in their eye sockets once again burned brightly, ready for a prolonged fight.
Hyrkan stood towering amidst the swirling dark energy, surrounded by an army of skeletons awaiting orders. A mystical purple aura enveloped his black armor, emanating an invisible pressure. He muttered, "Perhaps it's time I fought like a proper summoner." However, contrary to their master's serious demeanor, the skeletons behind him looked at each other with extreme skepticism, seemingly still haunted by some past mistake of his. Catching their gaze, Hyrkan couldn't help but feel annoyed. He turned back and shouted, "Come on, this time I'll do it properly. Last time was just a mistake, understand?" Finishing his words, he turned around, his eyes gleaming with steely determination. He let out a roar, slamming his hand onto the cracked ground. "Golem, you come out and get to work too." Immediately, the ground beneath Hyrkan's feet began to shake violently before splitting open. From deep within the earth, a colossal stone golem slowly emerged, kicking up clouds of dust. It delivered a devastating blow to the bear monster.
The bear-like monster roared earth-shatteringly, swinging its blazing red greatsword down with immense, world-shaking force. However, just as the blade was about to hit the ground, a pair of giant stone hands suddenly emerged, firmly gripping it. The golem, a colossal summoned creature, had blocked the attack with a deafening clash. From the shadows, Hyrkan emerged, a smirk visible behind his Hahoe Mask. "Got you," he sneered, a purple energy orb gathering in his palm. "Solidify!" Instantly, the golem's body began to transform. The stones in its hands became sharper, harder, clamping the monster's greatsword like an unbreakable vice. "That sword won't be moving for a while," Hyrkan declared confidently, then raised his hand, pointing directly at the restrained enemy. At his command, skeleton warriors with glowing blue eyes darted forward. The bear monster roared in helplessness as it was held fast, and from above, Hyrkan's skeletal army simultaneously leaped down, weapons ready to tear the foe apart.
A fierce blue energy surge exploded, followed by the skeleton army with glowing eye sockets charging in with relentless attacks. Facing the new force, the colossal bear monster let out an earth-shattering roar, its bloodshot eyes showing extreme fury as it saw its subordinates sprawled across the ground. Witnessing this, Hyrkan merely smirked confidently, his Hahoe Mask unable to conceal his arrogant demeanor. He provocatively declared, "Don't get mad too quickly. I still have one last move. Don't let your guard down." As he finished speaking, a terrifying power was unleashed. A brilliant and ferocious sea of flames engulfed everything in its path, creating an apocalyptic explosion. When the flames dissipated, the space fell into an eerie silence. The bear monster stood dumbfounded, one shoulder still burning, its eyes vacant. From a distance, Hyrkan stood, quietly observing his achievement. Neither spoke a word, only a tense stillness enveloped the desolate battlefield.
Hyrkan spun around, glaring at the skeleton mage. Anger flared within him as he growled, "I dodged, so just shoot, you idiot! Are you trying to get me killed?" The skeletal mage stood silent, its eye sockets swirling into the void as if pondering. Seizing the opportunity, the colossal bear warrior tilted its head back and let out an earth-shattering roar. A fiery red aura enveloped its massive body, swiftly healing its wounds and restoring half of its lost health. The monster now appeared even more ferocious, its bloodshot eyes seething with hatred. Witnessing this, Hyrkan merely curved his lips into a sneer. He brushed aside his previous annoyance, replacing it with utmost confidence. "Tactics, my ass," he muttered, then raised his head, the smile on his lips turning cold and arrogant. "Overwhelming force is the true way." With that, a surge of icy blue magic erupted around Hyrkan. Countless ghostly skulls began to form from the void, hovering around him, signaling the arrival of a new barrage, ready to crush anything in its path.
Swirling purple magical energy converged, enveloping the golem's massive skull. With a sky-rending roar, it opened its colossal bony jaws, biting straight into the target in an earth-shattering explosion. From a distance, the skeletons and skeleton mages could only watch in silence, overwhelmed by the horrific destructive power. Amidst the chaotic scene, Hyrkan's maniacal laughter echoed. He reveled in watching his golem crush the enemy, generating successive magical explosions. A few moments later, as the dust cleared, a desolate scene emerged. On the cracked ground, the bear warrior lay motionless, utterly defeated. Hyrkan stood proudly on the chest of his fallen foe, hands on his hips, his authoritative silhouette cast over the spoils. Instantly, a series of system notifications appeared before his eyes. You have defeated the bear warrior. You have gained experience points. You have earned 101,354 G.
A blue system window appeared before Hyrkan, bearing the notification he had been waiting for. You have completed the quest, Ma Wang's challenge. Behind his Hahoe Mask, a look of cold satisfaction spread across his lips. Memories of the past flooded back. Hyrkan recalled that this very monster had brought his mighty guild to its knees and caused immense struggle before he had the chance to turn back time. He clenched his gloved hand, feeling power surge through him. But this time, he thought, I defeated him with my own hands. A powerful sense of victory swelled within him. Standing amidst the brilliant sunlight, Hyrkan held his head high, his faith in the path he had chosen growing ever stronger. He had not been wrong. On the desolate, rocky battlefield, Hyrkan turned to face his skeletal army. He praised them. Well done, you bony rascals. Now we just need to return to Ma Wang and begin the next quest. The mission to destroy the bear warrior is complete. He stood proudly, hands on hips, between two large skeletal soldiers, savoring the glorious moment. However, the solemn atmosphere was quickly shattered by whispers from behind him. His skeletal soldiers were muttering among themselves. Isn't that a bit cowardly? He didn't even fight properly. The chatter reaching his ears caused Hyrkan's face to flush crimson with anger, veins popping on his forehead. He whirled around, shouting at the clueless soldiers, "Shut up, you brats! If you had fought a proper battle, you'd have been wiped out 6 times over already."
At the Bulkus West Base Tavern, the air was boisterous and lively with the laughter and chatter of adventurers. However, in a hidden corner, Hatch sat alone, completely lost amidst the merriment. He let out a heavy sigh, fatigue and worry clearly etched on his face. A sudden panic struck him. Hatch ran his hands through his hair, his eyes wide with fear. He groaned in despair. I'm screwed. I can't find the Hahoe Mask. I've searched all over the mountains for days, but there's no trace of him. To make matters worse, that video of Hahoe Mask has spread like wildfire, so now Bulkus is swarming with people, making it even harder to find him. The thought of the consequences made him slump onto the table in frustration. If I return empty-handed, Shiru will kill me. After a moment of silence, he muttered to himself with a hint of dissatisfaction. But seriously, isn't it completely unreasonable to make someone search alone on an entire mountain?
Hatch collapsed onto the crude wooden table, utterly exhausted both physically and mentally. He mumbled tiredly, "Damn this exploitative company, Thunder Hunters." Just then, the watch on his wrist suddenly vibrated and glowed. A 3-dimensional screen appeared, showing an incoming call from Shiru. Hatch jolted, so startled that he swung his arm, knocking over the cup on the table. He hastily accepted the call, stammering with a flustered expression, "Hello, Shiru. This isn't what it looks like, I swear." But from the other end of the line, Shiru's voice was perfectly calm. "Well done." Hatch froze, his eyes wide with surprise. Shiru's image appeared on the screen, and she said thoughtfully, "Now that I think about it, perhaps I gave you an overwhelming task. Searching an entire mountain alone is too much, even for you. You must have struggled a great deal." Those warm words were like a cool, refreshing stream, washing away all the fatigue and resentment in Hatch's heart. He fell silent, his eyes welling up with tears, his hand trembling as he brought it to his mouth to stifle his choked sobs. At that moment, only one name echoed in his mind: Shiru.
Hatch breathed a sigh of relief, a bright smile appearing on his face as he looked at the blue communication screen. "It's all right now," he said cheerfully. "So, can I go back now?" From the screen, Shiru's voice rang out decisively. "I will send Hahi to help you." Huh? Hatch looked bewildered, not yet understanding what was happening. Bang! A terrifying explosion echoed, tearing through the wall right behind him. Bricks and stones flew everywhere. Dust billowed, engulfing the entire room, and those around scrambled for cover. Amidst the smoke and dust, Shiru's cold voice continued from the communication screen. "The two of you cooperate and find him properly." Shiru's words struck Hatch like lightning. He whirled around, a look of extreme panic on his face as a familiar figure slowly emerged from the hole in the wall. Overwhelming, killing intent filled the space. Hahi's eyes blazed with angry pink light, and she roared, "You idiot, Hatch! Because of you, I've been dragged all the way here too." Crimson magical light radiated from the gigantic weapon in her hand, signaling an impending burst of fury.
Hatch's face was drenched in sweat, a strangely forced smile appearing on his lips. He, the notorious Mad Dog, and the only thing people knew for sure about him was his extreme hatred for Hatch. Facing the ironic situation, Hatch let out a dry, choked laugh, stumbling over his words before his desperate scream echoed, tearing through the silence. "Ha! This goddamn world!" His scream was like a shockwave, causing the surrounding space to seemingly distort and shrink. The peaceful townscape with majestic mountains in the distance suddenly warped, all converging on the epicenter of the agony and resentment he was enduring.